Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Waleed, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. I want to thank you once again for taking a little bit of your time to spend some time with me. And today, I want to do a little story time with you guys. I just want to remind you, I do own and operate a pest control company here in New York, and my pest control company is the most highly ranked pest control company on Google. And I love sharing some of my stories about some of the experiences that I've had as a pest control operator over the years here in New York City. So, this story that I'm about to tell you is an encounter that I had with a landlord here in Brooklyn, New York. The gentleman owned um, it was a 4 unit building, a residential building, 4 apartments. No, it was 3 apartments and a basement. So it was four rentals all together. 3 apartments plus a basement. Someone lived in the basement. And the this particular gentleman was he was a Hispanic gentleman. He had a very heavy Spanish accent. I can understand his English very well, but it was a nice sounding Hispanic accent. So he called and he hired us to do pest control service for him. The services that he needed for to get rid of roaches and mice, and in those 3 apartments plus the basement, the total for his services, it was probably like about $800 or so for a first time treatment. And then he talked about maybe getting monthly maintenance done after that initial service. But we went. We said, we arranged the date. We went and the service was done. I had my applicators go and complete the service, and after the service was completed, I called him. We can settle the payment, and he was like, "Oh, okay. Listen, and this might have been like a Friday." He says, "I'm so sorry. I have the business credit card at the business. I've already left the office and I've headed out of town. On Monday when I get back into New York and I have the business card, the credit card for the business, I'll call you and I'll settle the payment." And I was like, "Okay, fine, sir. That'll be totally fine." So the weekend goes by, Monday comes, Monday goes, and I don't hear from this gentleman. So I called him on Tuesday. I'm calling and I'm calling and I'm not getting a response. I'm and I'm not getting any response. I'm leaving text messages in addition to voice messages, and he's not responding to the text messages. He's not responding to the voice messages, and um, maybe by Wednesday or Thursday, he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to take care of you. Just give me another day or so." And uh, you know, eventually, this drags out. It's a couple of weeks later, and I'm so frustrated. I'm like, this. At this point, it was obvious that this guy got his service, and he was just fucking around, and he didn't want to make the payment. So I said, let me over to that building. And I went back to that building, and uh, I I knocked on the door, and a couple of the tenants answered the door. And at the time that I went, it was probably like 5 or 6 in the evening. So I was just so lucky that all of the tenants were home. And when I spoke to the tenants, especially there was a young lady who had an apartment on the first floor, and I spoke to her. I said, "Hey, this is A-list exterminator." She said, "Hey, how are?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm not too bad, but I'm having a problem. We did service for you guys in this building, and we've been trying to track down the landlord to get paid." And she's like, "What? Oh my God, you guys did such a fabulous job here. That scumbag didn't pay you guys?" And I was like, "No." And I went to the next tenant, and the on the middle floor, I went to the tenant on the top floor, and they pretty much all had the same sentiment. They felt like we did such a good job, and they were in shock that it was weeks later and that we weren't getting paid. But at the same time, part of them wasn't shocked because they knew who their landlord was. So I went back down to the girl on the first floor, and she said, "You know what? Let me call the landlord now." And I explained to her, and this is where I learned the term being ghosted. I explained to her that after the services was done, that I've been calling him and I have been leaving him text messages, and she said, "Oh my God, he ghosted you." And I was like, "What? What is that?" And she described it to me. She said, "So let me give him a call." So she happened to give him a call, and his name was Carlos. And she said, "Hey, Carlos, this is so and so, your tenant on the first floor." And he was like, "Hey, how are you?" And she put it on speaker. She says, "I'm not so bad, but at the same time, I had someone here who was very unhappy." And he was like, "Really, who?" She says, "He's here. He wants his money. They were here weeks ago, and they did such a good job." And uh, you can hear the pause in his voice, and then he's nervous. He said, "He's there." And she said, "Yep, he's right here. I have you on speaker." And I was like, "Hey, what's going on, Carlos? I need my goddamn money." And he was like, "Oh, well, um, uh, I did, I've been meaning to get back to you." I said, "You didn't mean to do anything because I've been calling you, I've been texting you, and you haven't been responding. You had $800 worth of service, and you've been avoiding me." And uh, so, and she said, "Yep, uh, you know, his son lives downstairs in the basement." And that was the basement when I knocked on all of the doors and I got the tenants. I got the first floor, the middle floor, and I got the top floor. I never the person in the basement, and I can hear a huge, massive dog that was in the basement that was barking the whole time. And she said, "Yeah, his son lives down in the basement too." And I was like, "Wow, that's really interesting to know." So his son would have gotten service from us too in that basement. And I said, "Listen, I need my money." He says, "Can you wait?" I said, "No, I cannot wait anymore. I don't trust you. In fact, I want to call these, and I don't trust you. I need my money right fucking now." And I said, "If you have a credit card, I'll process it on my phone right now. If you want to send me a Zelle, you can Zelle me using this." I said, "You have options, but I'm not leaving here until I get a fucking payment." So, and the Duster rubs salt in the room because he apparently had tenants that really didn't like him. So the tenant, she says, "Oh yeah, you know what I can do?" uh, you know, and I was like, "What can you do?" And she said, "I owe him rent. Rent is coming up. The first of the month is coming up. I can pay you, and you give me the invoice, and I'll deduct it from my rent because I want to get you guys paid because you guys did such a good job, and it's fucked up that this scumbag is trying to stiff you." And he was like, "No, no, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that." And so he says, okay, give me a second. Let me find my credit card. And he found his credit card, and uh, I said, can you send a photograph of the front and back of your credit card? And he took a photograph of the front and back of his credit card, and I was able to on my phone process the credit card information. And once I processed it, it it was approved. And once I got that approval, I texted him a paid receipt so that he had proof of his payment. Once I had my payment, I was like, "Thank you very much for your doing business with A-List Exterminator, sir." And I went on about my business, and I did thank the tenant and the other tenants. I thanked them so much for their time and their helpfulness, especially the young lady on that first floor. But I just tell this story to say that there's many times as a business when you will run into people who will try to stiff you, and I'm not one of those people that uh comes into a client and demand. Now, after this incident, he called me a few times after that for additional service. And generally, I'm not the kind of person who demands money first and then do the, I trust people, so I will provide their service, and after their service is completed, I expect them to process and complete their payments. And a vast majority of the time that works just fine. But in certain unique instances, like with this gentleman, when he wanted additional services from me, and I do, I just made it clear. If you want services from me, you'll have to pay first, because I don't want to go through what I went through before. And there have been quite a few customers where I've had to implement that policy. But hey, you got to pay me first, because I'm not going to go through what I went through. I've gone through this with uh, several other people over the years, and it's not pleasant. So that one worked out very well for me. So I want to thank you once again for taking a little bit of your time to spend some time with me. I hope that you enjoyed this story, and I really do hope that you will subscribe to my channel. I hope that you will watch other videos. I hope that you will like this video. Please help me grow this channel. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Thanks for your support. Take care.